Welcome to Lift Up Your Hearts podcast. Today we're going to do our Ignatian contemplation from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1, verses 16 through 20, where we hear the calling of the first four disciples, and we hear those famous words that Jesus says to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." What did that mean for those first disciples? What would it mean if you heard those words from Jesus? We're going to contemplate all of those things today as we do our Ignatian style contemplation. That's what I do here on this podcast. Thanks for listening. If you appreciate this podcast, give it a like, share it with others. I really try to show that having a deep prayer life in the scriptures can be possible. And in fact, it can be quite simple. And we just need to expand our imagination a little bit and allow the Holy Spirit to speak to us. The first thing we do in any contemplation, Ignatius asks us to take the moment of an Our Father and to contemplate how the Lord looks on us with love. So we really try to imagine the Lord seeing us, gazing upon us in a loving manner. How he looks on us, in particular me, how he looks at me with love. Some days that's even an embrace. Some days it's even an embrace. I imagine I'm kind of like going out for the day, and Jesus he just wants to say like one last goodbye. He wants to just kind of give me a little hug before he leaves for the day. I encourage you to use your own imagination and imagine how he looks at you with love. For me, that's how he looks at me. Is like if my daughter were to leave for the day, or when I leave my wife for the day and go to work, give her a hug and tell her I love her, and then I head out the door. So today we're going to contemplate the Gospel of Mark, chapter 1, verses 16 through 20. It's kind of a short little piece here, and we try to imagine a little bit before and after, and so we read through it first to kind of get the story and see who the characters are and see what's happening, and we can give them a little bit of a backstory and imagine, really start to imagine placing ourselves into the story. If it takes you reading it once or twice or 3 times, that's perfectly fine. This did come a little bit naturally to me, but it also takes some practice. It takes a little practice to kind of feel the freedom that you can have with this type of prayer. This is not a Bible study. This is not an exegesis of the Gospel of Mark, meaning we're not trying to glean from this like exactly what the author's trying to tell us, or theologically what all of this details mean. We're really trying to dive into the characters and maybe even be one of them, pretend we are one of them, use our imagination. And how does that feel? What is it like? What do you see and hear? What do you observe from the other disciples? And then, like I said, I think 2 podcasts ago, that's just the first 10 minutes of prayer. The rest of it is talking to Jesus about everything you saw and heard and felt, especially the felt. I really felt whatever. Disappointed, happy, excited, sad, mournful, confused. Take those to Jesus and then talk to him about it and then listen. The Gospel of Mark, chapter 1, 16 through 20. And Jesus, and passing along by the Sea of Galilee, Jesus saw Simon and Andrew, the brother of Simon, casting a net in the sea, for they were fishermen. And Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you become fishers of men." And immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on a little further, he saw James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, who were in their boats mending the nets. And immediately he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired servants and followed him. I think the first thing that sticks out to me is these guys this is, like their job, their career, and it's almost as if they were waiting. Like I don't know if they were just like waiting to leave their job, like, oh, finally a good opportunity. And maybe that was the case, but I don't know. I wouldn't think so. Because you actually get a sense that James and John were probably doing pretty well because they had hired servants. They had workers with them that were earning a wage, so I would assume they were probably doing pretty well. You can't really hire helpers if you're not doing well, or you're not catching any fish. And I also kind of giggle with, like, they left their dad, like, see ya, So we get this story, Jesus passing along by the Sea of Galilee, and he sees Simon and Andrew, and I just think also, what did he see in them? Obviously he's God, but so he knows all. He knows even the smallest hair on their head. But I don't know, what was it? And then follow me. I don't know. Like this line, follow me and I will make you become fishers of men. I wonder what that felt like, being Andrew and Peter, fishers of men. I wonder if that was confusing. Like, fishers of men. Oh, okay. Well, like, catch men? I wonder if that was a phrase used, or if this is unique to Jesus. I'm going to make you catch men with, like, do we need our nets for that? Do we, I don't know. It's kind of a curious line. Obviously, Jesus is talking about bringing men into the kingdom and catching them in, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. He uses this fishing kind of analogy, this motif, this understanding. He works it into their life because he had to have been a little bit known. In the other gospel, the Gospel of John, we hear John the Baptist, announcing Jesus, and then Andrew's one of his followers, and then he goes and tells Simon. I wonder what the order is. Did he already know about him? The alacrity with which they jumped out of the boats, it says, I think it says in here 3 times, immediately. Jesus immediately called them. They immediately left their nets. They immediately left their father and followed him. I just wonder how much they were waiting. How much were they waiting for Jesus? And then there's no hesitancy, I think this was the passage. This might have been the passage that Father Bear read the Sunday before he died. The pastor we had, talking about alacrity and moving immediately, going right away. There's no hesitation. And they left everything that provided for them. Everything. They left everything that provided for them to follow a preacher, a rabbi, a teacher. I don't know if this meant security. I wouldn't think so. I mean, we hear in the Gospel of John that they say, "Where are you staying?" He's obviously not staying in somewhere they know, a nice place. So it's interesting, man. This one in some ways is a little bit hard to place myself in the place of the disciples. That like that moving immediately without counting the cost. I think that's the thing that sticks in my heart is they did it without counting the cost. The disciples said yes without counting the cost, without going back to say bye to mom, they left their dad, they left their boats, I would assume they owned them, and they just left everything and followed him. And I think that's a little bit hard to relate to, because at least I feel like I want to have both. Can I follow Jesus and not give up everything? Can I follow him and still have my house and comforts and everything else? And it would seem to me they didn't do that. There was no measuring. There was no, I don't know. Yeah. Is this going to work out? Boom, immediately. There was no questioning. It's a little bit hard for me to place myself in their place, because it just seems a little ridiculous. They left everything and followed him. And then I'm reminded that the young righteous man comes to Jesus. What must I do to enter the kingdom of heaven? And I follow the commandments. I've done that forever. Well, give up everything and come follow me. And he went home sad. But these guys didn't. These guys did not go home sad. There seems to be, even with immediacy, there seems to be a sense of, I'm sensing like joy, this sense of happiness. I don't really do anything that is miserable immediately. I'll drag my feet forever for something like that. I'm feeling in my heart, if I'm Peter, Andrew, James, John, in my heart, there's something I've been waiting for, maybe even desperately, that when Jesus says, "Come follow me," there's a sense of joy and immediacy and no hesitations, no counting costs, no looking back. And I don't mean to be preachy, but that just seems to be the message. Like, you want to be a disciple, no hesitation, all joy, all excitement. You've been waiting for this. No counting the costs, no looking back. And Jesus even reminds us of this later, We don't look back, We don't say, "Oh, wait, I got to tie up some stuff and I'll meet you in a week or so," which seems to be something we might do with a dumbed down Jesus, a Jesus who I don't desperately need. I feel it in my heart now. Jesus comes to me. I guess I'm sensing like these disciples weren't ignorant and they were waiting and there was probably some misery in their heart. Not from fishing, but from, a sense of salvation. And when Andrew in the Gospel of John comes to Peter and says, "We found the Messiah, we found him, he's him," as the kids would say these days. We found him. And which I said last week implies they're waiting. They're waiting for him. And there's probably a sense of desperation that it's hard to have for me right now in a life of comfort. Our house is not comfortable. It's kind of cold here, but in a life of comfort, in a life of not wanting much, it's a little more difficult. I think the thing for the rest of this week that I'll be asking the Lord about is, where is that sense in my heart? Where's that sense of joy that comes with this excitement? It seems like it doesn't say they're excited, but when I'm one of the disciples, I move immediately for things I'm excited about or fire, I move immediately for things that are important. I move immediately for those things. Everything else, I delay and procrastinate and wait till the last second. But things that I've been really waiting for, things that I've been really desiring, man, I move immediately. And they must have had that in their heart. And I'm a little bit detached from it right now, and that's my prayer this week, is acknowledging that maybe I don't feel that excitement and immediacy right now. Maybe because I'm resting in the Lord's arms. I don't know, or maybe I have moved a little far away and have forgotten, and I'm not anticipating him and waiting for him. This is what Ignatius really tries to help us see when we're doing our prayer, is to become aware of the movements of our heart so that we can relate them to God. This is what he calls the colloquy. Relating these things to God, that I become aware of what's happening in my heart. I become aware that I don't have that sense of immediacy and excitement. Maybe it's just tonight. I don't know. Maybe there's a little desolation. I don't know. But I become aware of it, and I relate it to God. And I say to him, this is what I'm feeling. And listen. And take that time to talk to him. I hope you take that time. I hope this podcast shows you that a regular person like me can just dive into scriptures without all the understanding that it might seem like you need. A nice study Bible, by Ascension Press, a nice study Bible by Ascension Press, put out by Jeff Cavins, is really all you need. I mean, there's other good Bible studies out there, and then the rest is just listening to your heart, the movements, what you're feeling, what you're sensing, and then talk to Jesus about them. That's it. That's it, man. Please know that I'm praying for you. I love you. Please pray for me that I may fall in love with the Lord more every day and be with him one day forever and ever. I'll see you next week. Actually, I'll probably see you later this week. I might start a little reflection on Father Gallagher's, contemplation meditations on the Mass and how to kind of enter into it more fully. It's been a beautiful blessing for me, so I just want to share it with the world. So maybe I'll see you later this week. God bless. Bye-bye.